to be honest with you, and to piggyback off what you said, Jester, is yeah, I don't want to watch two guys in their underwear, play fight, sweaty, rolling around on there. I want to see characters. I come from a comic book background where I want to see, I want to see storylines that engage me and are over the top, even if it's a simple stab somebody in the back storyline. It's drama. At the end of the day, it's a violent play. It's the stuntmen who can act, and I think it still has its same luster to me, but I think it's just oversaturated. When you have this many, the number one player in the game, WWE's cornered the market. Now you see some stuff like New Japan and Ring of Honor and Impact is still clinging to life, but a lot of the stuff it's a one player game. They even hold the big WWE network, which they can control if they want to have other wrestling on a network too. That's been rumored, but hasn't happened yet. So wrestling is thriving on the independent circuits all over it. These shows are still doing really well. I think in the WWE's case, NXT does so well, which is their other brand, which is on the network only. I don't know if it'll eventually be on FX with the Fox deal, but it's so good because it's a tightened up ship. It's a 1 hour show, and they have a good chance to feature everyone and continue it. Nobody is oversaturated. I think if they can one day lose the oversaturation, it's just going to have to stay competitive. You're not going to fool many people outside of the little kids in a sense of them thinking it's real, but I think the product has changed where they want to see these athletic contests that suspend your disbelief. Oh wow, like the holy shit moments. Does something look really cool? Did they craft a good storyline? That's what I think today's people really want to see. The stuff that's engaging, a highly trained athlete doing some cool moves, a good storyline, and engaging characters. I think you take those three factors, recipe for success. I think the biggest enemy of WWE might be part of their success is just that they're so oversaturated with so many hours of programming that it's tough to stay creative and on your game all the time.
But you look at it, you look at the wrestling now, it's basically soap operas for guys. And, because women tune into soap operas and they know it's not real, but they gotta draw you in somehow. And the thing that draws guys in is not only the storyline, but the action. And I think that's the part that's losing. It seems to be basic wrestling anymore. And like you said, it's got to kind of tone it down. But that's where I think I got turned off from watching it was you want to see action. People go to movies to watch action. They tune in on Mondays and Thursdays to watch action. And I think that I try to watch Monday Night Raw, which is really the one I watch a lot. And I kind of get, after the first hour and a half, I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't want to get to where they keep tying you into the final match. And you already know something's going to happen. They're either not going to finish it or something's going to happen in the match. And you pretty much can already guess how it's going to, every one of these storylines is playing out.
Even a good action movie, Jester, it gets tiresome at the 3 hour mark, and that's what it is. I mean, you got 3 hours with commercials. It'd be watching a movie for 3 hours with ads in between for popcorn or whatever crap and shit that they'd be peddling. Even then, a movie at 3 hours is tough. I mean, one of the longest movies that I think held interest would be The Dark Knight, which was just a fantastically written and crafted movie and performed as well. So it's tough. You can't have every week be like that, and that's just really tough. And I'll let Rock chime in and his thoughts too. It's just really tough. It's just it's oversaturation. You just have too many hours of programming. Even the best action movie, it's just too much.
Wrestling, for me, to answer your question, Jester, it lost its luster when kayfabe died.
Everyone, Rock, you want to just explain that real quick?
So, for all the listeners, kayfabe was a term used by wrestlers backstage when they were talking about the business basically being fake. Some people still believed it was real, or they questioned, is this real, is this fake? And so wrestlers would use the term, they'd say kayfabe if a fan or somebody who wasn't involved in the business was walking by when they were talking about the business, essentially. Kayfabe, that was the original definition of kayfabe. It's evolved since then. But when WWE opened the doors and you have the bad guys and the good guys, and now they're sitting together and they're eating lunch and they're having a great time, but then they're back out there and they're killing each other and they're saying how much they hate each other out on the ring on TV. But now backstage they're friends and their stuff. To me, that's really what killed the business, and that's what really lost a lot of the mystery and the excitement for me personally. Even during the Attitude Era, which, Jester, that's my favorite era too. Everybody in their world has their hero. My personal hero was Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was the man that I modeled myself after, that I thought, this is what a man should be. This is who I want to be. The Attitude Era
bald with goatees, I believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was like, this is what you flip your boss off, you give him the stunner, you drink beers, you drive big trucks, and I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he was just, to me, he was like my hero in all of life. I'm like, this is the guy I want to be, and it was just so exciting because Stone Cold, you never knew what Steve Austin was going to do. Here's a monster truck. The next day he's driving a beer truck. He's driving, he's bringing in the Zamboni. He's getting arrested. I mean, every single time Steve Austin just pushed the bar and made the show so exciting, to the point to where even non-wrestling fans are tuning in and they're seeing a bald-headed goatee guy smash their boss's car, and they're going, man, this is really cool. So is it any wonder why this guy is blowing ratings up and outselling, still, I believe, the undefeated champ of merchandise? I don't think anybody's beaten Steve Austin in terms of merchandise, though.
Well, let me interrupt you real quick, though. You think about it, when you say kayfabe and you think about that era, that's when the wrestlers, in my opinion, were portraying the character that related to who they really were, and they weren't trying to be something they weren't. That Stone Cold Steve Austin, even when you saw him in interviews, even when you saw him in movies, even when you saw him doing his TV show, he always had the same character, so it never broke for me when you see that. Same with The Rock. The Rock came across that character, the DX crew, whenever you saw those guys, it's the same thing. The characters related to, you saw them outside of wrestling, they never changed. And it still gave you that delusion that maybe this is real. Maybe they really are. Because again, wrestling, when the people say, is it real or not, the only part that's not real is the story. The other part that everything's going on is real. All the action, all the bumps, all the hitting, all the falling, all the stuff going on is real. The part's not real is everybody knows how it's going to end and how it's going to begin. And so that's the part I was getting at, was when they stopped doing that and wrestlers then started becoming, I'm going to be on the show with the Bella twins and we're going to talk about our life and having babies, and it just really kind of it made wrestling now become like it's so fake that it's not even really interesting to watch.
Well, that has drawn fans on its own, because I have even some family members that I never in a million years would thought they'd watch, but like a family back in Arizona, like saying, "Hey, your niece is watching wrestling now. Why aren't you? Wish you were here to take her to events." And that's because of the Bella series and the Diva series. So it's helping, I think, on the female fan side of it, But on the same token, it's pulling the curtain back now, where these competitors are supposed to hate each other in the storylines. That you see clear as day on the Diva show and the Bella show, they're all friends. So it's like when you pull that curtain back too much, now you have to associate them with actors, because one of the lusters of WWE, and all of wrestling in general, is you didn't know if this guy was really a prick. When if I was performing and say, as a character or something, to me, it would be a badge of honor to say, hey, I don't know if that guy's really a prick in real life. Because it's like, to me, then you're doing your job to an umpteenth degree, where they know, hey, he's such a dislikable prick. I want to see him get his ass kicked, and I really think he's an asshole. That little nuance is really that type of emotion that you can draw. It's tough to do when the whole curtain has been pulled back. So
right.
Those true people, those true heelish personas, and those people, a lot of that stuff is pulled back so far. Now you have to kind of treat it like you're watching, characters from a TV show or movie, because for a fact more than likely 9 times out of 10 of those guys or girls are not who they're portraying. Maybe to some extent they are. Anybody who's performed, that's part of you in them. But how they're scripted to perform and told to do, if Charlotte's told, hey, you got to, fuck up Ronda Rousey a little bit in this match to make it look believable. Well, Charlotte doesn't really want to cripple her, but she's got to make it believable. So she's going to have to lay some shots in, but if you see on a Diva show or whatever, and Charlotte's on there hugging Ronda Rousey after the match, I think that pulls the curtain back a little too far.
Are they hanging out? They're hanging out at lunch. Go ahead, Rock. Go ahead, Rock.
That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like, okay, yeah, you have Ronda Rousey and Charlotte. They just beat the shit out of each other in an awesome fight. I don't want to see those two out to dinner chuckling and laughing afterwards. But that's, Table of Three and Road Ride and all these other shows on the WWE Network. That's exactly what they're doing. It's like, wait, didn't I just watch these two beat the hell out of each other and now they're sitting here friends? Like, it's almost like it's a reality TV show, and that's what bothers me about modern wrestling today.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm engaged in that, and I watch the programs. Once I discovered the dirt sheets and stuff back in the day and followed the behind the scenes news. For me, that became, I was very curious. So a lot of that, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, voyeurism as a fan, as you're doing it, you're watching and you're peering in the inside. It's like of a secret club you never got to see before because you're growing up as a kid. You never got to see them, what they did when they went backstage. So a lot of that stuff is still fascinating, but for, the average fan or something like that, I don't know if it's good for the business. So, I mean, when you see that type of stuff, genuine, real heat is going to be tough to achieve, but, people still want to suspend their disbelief. I mean, wrestling does is look at how fans it drew in Saudi Arabia, for Pete's sake. I mean, wrestling still is going to draw. WrestleMania is always going to draw. This, when you strip this down to what this is, and as much as we all love it, this is play fighting. So people are still paying hard-earned money to watch play fighters. They've made celebrities out of play fighters. They buy a lot of merchandise over play fighters. No matter whatever it is, when you strip what wrestling is, this is a staged contest, but the performers are larger than life, and that's the key to everything.
I guess what I'd like to see is if you're going to commit to a character and you're going to take this on as a profession, then you carry that character until the day it's been discovered that you're not that person. Because if you just automatically start going to these people's houses and these reality shows and having dinner with them, or you're sitting at their pool, but then on the show you're fighting with them, it just takes away the whole the part where I want to be engulfed in a reality of thinking that this is real to me. And now it's been so exposed that it's not even believable at all. Like, even if they try to make it believable. And I think that's why, as everybody's curiosity about reality shows, you always want to see the reality of everybody's life, because everybody's just that way. They want to know what everybody's doing and how if their life is miserable or if they're awesome. But when you take on a wrestling role and you want to be a character, the last thing I want to see is, like Rock is saying, is you at dinner with them or you're going out with them. If you really have a beef with someone, just like boxing, you don't see these guys hanging out at a bar together. Doesn't mean they can't appear on the same show, but it would make it more interesting on a reality show if Ronda Rousey was there and all of a sudden they just started shoving each other and got into like a scuffle. And that would probably entice more of me to sit there and say, awesome. I think this has got some kind of a truth to it. That would make me still believe that there's something going on, even though I know that wrestling is you keep saying play fighting, but I still like to believe that these guys are in there actually have some kind of like grudge against each other. So anything you guys got to say? We got to wrap this up in about a minute. So anything you guys got to say before we wrap this up? Appreciate the discussion. I just got you guys off track, but I like to pick your guys' mind because as a wrestling fan myself, I always find myself just not really interested in watching as much anymore, just because of that reason that I stated earlier. So go ahead, guys.
I'll suggest NXT is the best program to watch for anybody you'd want to introduce to wrestling right now. I'm sure I agree. I'll let him talk and stuff too, but I would appreciate the discussion. And it's always fascinating to talk about wrestling.
I hope we can give our listeners the pleasure of discussing a few NXT shows in the future, because I agree. NXT is the best right now.
How would you find an NXT show?
WWE Network.
WWE Network. It's the only way to do it.
Free for the first month.
All right. Well,
only $9.99.
You've heard it here now. 3 episodes